Welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. Today we have a very important topic. We are going to talk about the epidemic of loneliness and what this means for you and your culture in your small business as you work on retaining your A players. And I have a very honored guest. I'm very honored to have him back here with me on the Profit by Design podcast. I believe this is his third trip with us on the podcast. So welcome back, Dov Baron. And I want to introduce you to Dov so you understand what expertise we have here with us as we dive into this topic. So Dov Baron has been named twice to the list of the world's top 30 global leadership gurus and Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers. He has presented to companies and organizations worldwide, including the United Nations, the Department of State, the World Management Forum in Iran, the U.S. Air Force, and famed Servant Leadership Institute. Dov's focus on human behavior and neuroscience has made him the world's leading authority on emotional source code and the anatomy of meaning. You can learn more about that and those things at dovbaron.com. Dov is also the best-selling author of One Red Thread and Fiercely Loyal: How High-Performing Companies Develop and Retain Top Talent. He's the creator and host of the Dov Baron Show podcast, previously known as Leadership and Loyalty, named the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives by Apple Podcasts. The Dov Baron Show has featured hundreds of hours of interviews with top leaders, scientists, theologians, military intelligence officers, and artists. So welcome, Dov, to the podcast.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to be here. Always a great, just honor to have a chat with you. I always look forward to it. I'm looking forward to serving you and serving your audience.
Absolutely. I think this is something that we as business owners probably are not paying enough attention to, and it is a significant opportunity for us to build our culture with an eye to understanding what is going on in the world around us and how loneliness is so pervasive. So I just would love for you to talk some about what is the loneliness epidemic and how is it impacting business at this point and what we should be doing about it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, let's just take a step back and go back to pre-pandemic. We were all running our asses off on that treadmill and we were all like running to nowhere. And I call the pandemic the Great Pause because it pushed us all off our treadmills for a while. And we all had to go, why am I doing this? And we started to search for meaning, which is great, wonderful. But at the same time, I did record a podcast during that time and said, but my concern is that everybody is going to be focused on, and they kept asking, when are we going to get back to normal? Normal wasn't working. Normal was dysfunctional and destructive, and we were just not even present in our own lives. In that isolation, we got used to, and again, I'll just reiterate this from a psychology point of view, normal isn't healthy. Normal's whatever you got used to. Let me re-say that. Normal isn't healthy. Normal's whatever you got used to. In your childhood, in your business, in politics. You know, it's kind of normal to see, oh, there's crazy shit going on today in the news every day. That used to be something that happened twice a year, maybe. Now it's every day. So we've gotten used to the chaos of that as an example. So what became normal was to become isolated. This is not our nature. We are tribal beings. We need each other. And because of the pandemic, when we did, quote, go back to work, although most people have not fully gone back to work even 5 years in, what's happened is we've become more isolated. Now, I want to make a distinction here because there's a distinction between isolated and lonely. So you might go, I'm not lonely. No, but are you isolated? Well, what do you mean? Do you work from home? Yes. How often do you go out? How many people do you actually meet in the world? You have your food delivered by DoorDash, right? And you're never actually meeting with anybody apart from on Zoom or whatever it might be. So this becomes something inherent within us where there's this hunger to connect. The problem is that it's having psychological impact. So just to put this in context, it's almost $7 trillion impact, this loneliness epidemic, on the global GDP. That's what it's costing the global GDP. We're worried about, AI and what that's going to do to us, but we're not paying attention to what's right in front of us. And if we don't start building companies that are culture focused, what will happen is people will not want to be engaging with us. So of course they don't want to come back to work because there's no reason to be there.
So let's just break this down in terms of that economic impact. What are some of the ways that we would see this playing out in our individual companies? What costs would we see?
Well, that's a great question, because let's go back to something that we were all very focused on before the pandemic, and that was engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple billions of dollars spent on engagement, bringing in people like me, consultants who come in and help you to build engagement. But guess what? Sorry to tell you, in the 10 years of focusing on engagement pre-pandemic, engagement didn't go up, it went down. Now, I know what I was offering was really good stuff and really good value. And I'm certain there were many consultants doing exactly the same, offering in great stuff. So why wasn't it working? Why weren't people engaged? Because we know it was costing companies and organizations billions and billions of dollars. That's why they would spend billions of dollars to try and change it. So where we're seeing this loneliness epidemic now is it's not only not engaged at work, we're not engaged with work. So let me give you an example. It's one of the things that I'm doing a lot of work with large organizations right now. Most people will tell me we can't get people to come back to work. We're understaffed, and if we force them to come back, we're pretty sure they're just not going to come. So we've got people coming in 2 days a week and working from home. And I go, here, let me just ask you a simple question. And they go, what? I go, are your people who work from home as productive as when they were in? And the answer is, yeah, kind of, like, the productivity is still there. So why do you care?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you care if they're in? And they go, well, I just think we should have them here. And, and I said, I'll tell you why you should have them in. And they go, why? I go, it's the hallway. It's the talk in the hallway. It's the water cooler conversation. It's the kitchen conversation. It inspires us. It gives us ideas. We have creative talks. We talk to somebody about this problem that we wouldn't do if we were working from home. We work in isolation. And part of that is it shuts your brain down for innovation and creativity. It's costing you innovation and creativity. That's a big cost. So what's the solution? We can't force them to come back, but they're not having the water cooler conversations at home. What do we do? Any ideas?
No, I'm just hanging on to hear what you have to say.
Right. The thing is, since the pandemic, we've lost the bowling club. Mm-hmm. We've lost the bridge club. We've lost the whatever clubs we used to be. I mean, I have a friend. She's a member of the oldest Baptist church in Memphis, right? She's been going there since she was 4 years old, and she's in her 70s.
Wow.
Right? Pre-pandemic, always there every Sunday, and volunteered 1 day a week when she was in town, right? She's a speaker. And a friend said to her recently, about a year ago, why haven't we seen you at church? And she goes, I'm there every Sunday. She goes, no, I don't see you. She goes, oh, it's because I'm on Zoom. I watch it on Zoom. I'm there on Zoom. And she goes, that's not church. I want to challenge you to come back to church. My friend went back to church, and then she wrote me this beautiful story of meeting this little girl who was, and talking to this little girl in the church. That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And
she realized, I have to go to church. There's something that happens there. It's not the sermon. It's the community. Mm-hmm. It's the community. If you want to bring people back to work, and this is going to sound outrageous, so hold on to your seat for a minute, because you might think I've gone off my rocker, but honestly, it works. Most of your office space is wasted now. You've got 20 desks You ask people to book a desk, and when they come in, there's only 2 people in the room anyway. It's like, why the hell am I here? Here's what you need to do. Don't give up the space. You need to turn a large part of that space into a social space. And they go, for what? Your people are allowed to work from home, but for 2 days a month, they have to come in. But in the 2 days a month that they come in, they're not expected to work. They get paid, but they're not expected to work. You expect them to work when they're working from home, and you expect them to meet all the deadlines and everything they do. But they come to work so they can hang out in this community called ABC Inc. And we hang out, and I get to see, oh, yeah, oh, wow, I haven't seen you in ages. How you doing? And what's going on? And how are the kids? And how are the grandkids? And what's going on with this? And oh, really? Your kid's getting married? That conversation. And you know what? I'm working on this at home. Oh, well, I've been doing that. I'm really struggling with that. Me too. Well, I wonder what we could do about that. Is there a working area? Yes. Is there whiteboards? Yes. Is there desks and computers? Yes. It's not the focus. It's the stimulus that gives us a place to work on what it is we came in together. People are then going, I want to go in because I want to hang out with that person. We had some great ideas. And now I've got a community. Now there's a place where I belong. Everything in business we did before the pandemic. And again, all the consultants are out there going, find people who fit in. We all read good to great. Get the right people on the right bus in the right seat. No, stop. Get the right people in any seat they want. I don't care if you show up for work with a beard and a full-length gown. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is, can you show up as a decent human being, do your work, get along with everybody else? Can you do that? Great. Because one of the things I tell these companies that I'm working with is you need to be hiring not for what you're hiring for. And they go, what do you mean? Well, let's say you need somebody who's administrative. And they go, yeah, okay. So obviously, table stakes is that they're good at their administrative work. You've got to do that. That's table stakes.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to focus on what else are you really interested in. So, Charlie, you're really, I can see you're very qualified with this administrative stuff. What else are you interested in? Well, what do you mean? Well, what do you do on the weekends? What do you like to do? Oh, I like hiking. Oh, right. Yeah. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you really like. Oh, well, actually, I like watching movies. All right. What is it about movies that you like? Like, let me get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What kinds of movies do you like? And you like discussing the movies? Yeah, I'm really interested in the psychology of villains. Oh, really? Now you've given me information about you that tells me what you're interested in as a subset. Guess what? That's a set of skills we could use. So then we start thinking, I wonder how we want you to do your job, but I want you to give you 2 hours a week to work on this thing you're really fascinated with, and think about how it ties into what we do. Well, we're in finance. I know we're in finance. Who's the villain of finance? And we start a conversation. Oh, wow. Yeah. And could you write a little story about that? Yeah. Could you put that on our website? Yeah. Could you make a little video about it? Yeah. Could you put it on the website? Yeah. Because we're in a creator economy as well. Tie those things together. Now you've got people who want to belong, not just bloody fit in, being a square peg in a round hole. We're like, I can bring all of myself to work. This is exciting for the company, and it's exciting for the people who are going, I want to go there.
So you're really getting to understanding the uniqueness of our team members and inviting them, pulling out of them what their uniqueness is, and supporting them and looking at, how does this even have relevance to what you're doing on a day-to-day? And where the relevance comes in is it drives innovation, because as soon as we start taking two things that are very disparate or seem very disparate, and we juxtapose them together and say, how do we make this work? Now we have to get creative. And I would venture maybe half the time there is no connection. But even if there is no connection, it has generated conversation and collaboration and creativity and connection that starts to feed on driving engagement.
Yeah, there's that. And there's also the other thing, which is the two people come together and they're having this conversation. They go, I don't know how it will work. And maybe it won't, right? But if we've created a community, Bob's over there going, are you talking about this? Yeah. Have you guys thought about that? No. Wow. Because it's a community. In my book, Fiercely Loyal, I wrote about the 4 C's, and one of the 4 C's was community. And I said, if you're going to start a business, that book was written in 2015. If you're going to start a business, you have to build a community. I said that in 2015. People thought I was a little bit mad, and that's okay. Recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've said I was wrong. I said in that book, if you're going to start a business, you have to build a community. Now I say, build a community and put a business in it. It's the other way around. The community has to be first. It will create bonding, oxytocin at a neurochemical level. People will want to be with each other. It will create creativity. It'll create innovation. It'll create people wanting to be part of something bigger, something more meaningful. And that's what we all crave.
So let's bring that into talking about a culture of belonging and how that's very different than just fitting, if somebody feeling like they fit in here.
As I said, I think that we've been all conditioned to make people fit in. One of my clients, he's been a client of mine for 15 years, and he is originally his family are from like Uganda or somewhere, right? And he got this very high level job. He was 2IC, second in command in another organization that got bought out by a bigger company. But the bigger company took him in, and I said, how is it? And he goes, I've got pretty much leeway. I'm good. I can do whatever I want to do. And I said, do you get to be yourself? Do you get to bring your value? And he said, honestly, I think I was a DEI hire. Like, this is the conversation my clients and I have. We don't pull punches. He goes, I think it was DEI hire. I think they kept me because they knew I'd done well, but I was also the right color for them, showing that they were focused on that. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, I said, but you're a terrible DEI hire. And he goes, why? And I said, because DEI, is about having all these different things. I said, but let me ask you a question. What's your uniform at work? So he tells me, 'cause it's not a blue shirt and khaki pants, but it's pretty much, it's a uniform. And I said, how many people dress differently than the uniform? And he goes, no one. And I go, okay. I said, if the CEO says X, are you free to say Y? And he goes, no, we kind of do that in the groups separate from, but you go through the ranks and do it. I go, oh, so there's no diversity. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, real diversity has got nothing to do with the clothes you wear, the color of your skin, your ethnicity, your nationality, or anything. It's cognitive diversity. This is what a culture of belonging is. It's cultural diversity. I want you to show up and not be like me. I have somebody who works for me, honest to God, like she worships at the feet of the spreadsheet god. Right? And she's going, I'm going to convert you to the religion of spreadsheets. And I'm like, good luck with that. Like, I've never looked at a spreadsheet in my life. She goes, you must have looked at it. I go, no. People show them to me all the time. I'm like, no, I'm not going to look. It's just, I look at it and I get overwhelmed. It doesn't work for me. And I know that for you, it takes you out of overwhelm. It's fantastic. And I love that you get aroused at the idea of a spreadsheet. I, on the other hand, it could be the erection killer of life, but it just doesn't work.
Well, that's a quote on the Profit by Design podcast we've never had before.
I'm sure. But this is the point. You want people who don't think like you. She's a mechanistic thinker, right? That's great. You want people who don't think like you or think in the same arena as you, but in a different way. They look at it differently. This is what diversity is. Diversity is get the right people on the bus meaning let them sit anywhere they want, do whatever they want. Yes, there is a place for them within their realm of expertise. But I talked about this in 2016 and people thought I was nuts. And I said, we've all been told, certainly since the end of the 90s, find your niche, get rich in your niche. And I said, it's dead wrong. And people went, what are you talking about? I go, you're going to die in a niche. Your niche is nothing more than a sophisticated rut. You're going to die in there. And the generalists are going to eat your breakfast. And they're like, no, Dov. And I said, I know I'm ahead of time, but this is what's going to happen. And it's exactly what's happened with AI. Right? If you're in a niche, AI can eat your breakfast. There's no doubt about it. Because whatever you do, it can do it way deeper than you can.
Yes.
But if you know how to tie things together, AI can't do that. And that happens through relationship. That happens through our emotional connections. That happens through our emotional intelligence and our emotional maturity applied to our own emotional source code so that we interact with other people in ways that AI can't do. I mean, it might be able to in the future, but it can't do right now. So you need to look at what's all the different skills that I've got and how can I bring them? That's why we're interviewing to say, what else do you do? What else are you excited about? What else are you interested in? Because that's your creative hook.
So it's that creative hook and it's our social connection that feeds that creative hook. And when we are hiring, if we're hiring people who see the world the same as we do and interact with the world the same as we do, we are creating lots of blind spots in our companies. But we are also completely minimizing the impact of creativity on innovation. And I think what is so interesting here is you bring in AI into this conversation, and everyone is talking about how do we stay relevant in the age of AI. What you're saying is one of the key ways to stay relevant in the age of AI is to make sure we are building the relationships at work and creating environments that foster those creative conversations.
That's exactly it. It's so very simply, AI, if you want to look at what AI is, it's pattern recognition. That's what it is. It recognizes patterns. It knows the next word that's going to come because it recognizes the pattern. But AI does not see the paradoxical connections. AI does not feel. AI does not know how to make those emotional connections. AI doesn't produce oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone that only takes place between living beings. When you stroke your dog or your cat, you get oxytocin. When you get a hug from your kid, your friend, your mom, your dad, whoever it may be, you get oxytocin. You can hug your computer till the cows come home. You ain't getting any oxytocin, and the AI isn't getting any either. That part of us is a precursor to a whole bunch of other neurochemicals that allow us to bond and therefore be creative, collaborative. And just think about it from a primordial, primitive psychology. If you're out in the bush and it's 20,000 years ago, and you're on the plains and you're trying to survive, you got to kind of work out how to survive, and you're probably going to end up dead. So what do? You find a tribe and you work together, and you go, this big beast over here, that would feed us all for a month. That would be fantastic. But I can't catch it. Can you? No, none of us can catch it. But can we catch it? Yes. How? We start to strategize. Well, those are no different than the strategies we're looking about, how to conquer the market, how to get deeper into the market. Who do we go to next? What do we do next? I've talked about in my book for the last 20 years, I've talked about there's no such thing as competition. Stop competing. Get out of the niche and stop competing. There's only collaboration. If you're competing, you're killing yourself. Look at your audience. Who's my audience? Oh, they're these people. Who else can serve that audience that I can collaborate with? And maybe I get a commission check, and maybe they get a commission check, and maybe we find a way to develop something that's brand new, and we can use AI to help us to develop a system that is a brand new that we can bring both of our expertise together. Oh, wow. All right. There's no competition. There's only collaboration. If you're living in a world of niche competition, congratulations, you are bankrupt. You don't know it yet, but it's all over. Start planning your funeral business-wise. It's already done. You've got to embrace this. We can't afford to be Luddites, but we can't afford to throw our humanity away either. And that's what a lot of people do. Oh, I'll take it all to AI, or I'm not going to go to AI. These polarities, humans, is what we do. No. Like, AI is awesome as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not knock every screw in with a freaking hammer. Let's not try and cut this piece of wood with a hammer. It's a tool. It's a great tool. It's a wonderful tool. But the best tool you've got is your humanity that sits as the central spoke in the wheel.
So let's talk about humanity from the perspective of the leader's emotional source code and the impact that that's going to have on a business.
So thank you for asking about that. I really appreciate it. When you think about, you might go, well, what is the emotional source code? So the way to understand it is that I've written, as you know, I've written the emotional source code for the United States. I wrote one for England. I wrote one on Vladimir Putin. Not that he asked me, but I did. He personally had no interest in it, I'm sure. Maybe he does, but one of my clients in the political realm said to me, I don't understand why he's invaded Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. And so I spent a lot of time doing analysis to develop his. I did one on Donald Trump in 2015 and said why he would win, right? So it helps us to understand what drives things. So it's not just people, i.e. Putin or Trump, but it's also organizations. I do them all the time for organizations. That's what they bring me in to do. So I find out what their emotional source code of that company is or the country. If you can find out what that is, you find out what drives it at an unconscious level. So quick exercise, quick, simple one. And please feel free to get this wrong, okay?
Okay.
All right, either way. Like, in other words, don't be embarrassed to say whatever you think it is. If you had to pick a single word or up to 5 words, but probably a single word for the emotional source code of the United States, what would it be? Now, let me clarify what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to look at the US right now because you might say divided, right? That's not the emotional source code. That's present content. What we're looking at is from the beginning, what has consistently been the driving force of this country? What has it been? If you summarize it in a word or a few words, what would it be? What would you guess?
The first word that comes to mind may be different than I think a lot of people might think, but safety.
Sure. Safety. It's very interesting because safety is a parallel. So people fled the England for safety,
yes,
and they went to America. So you're absolutely right. But that was freedom to be safe.
Okay.
The emotional source code of America is freedom. So look at everything. So let's take Martin Luther King's speech. You know the name of that speech?
Well, the common name is I Have a Dream.
That's right. So I have a dream, right? Now, let me ask you, how many times do you think on a ratio the word dream appears and the word freedom appears? The word freedom appears almost twice as many times.
Yeah.
Let freedom reign. Thank God Almighty, let freedom reign. Freedom, because that's why that speech hits. It's freedom, right? The reason that the Jeep was the #1 vehicle in America forever was because it was sold on freedom. It was the new horse. That was how it was sold. It was the new horse. It was allowing you to ride off the road, the freedom to go anywhere, right? When you understand what that emotional source code is, you understand what's driving that organization, what's driving that individual, what's driving. So, for instance, Vladimir Putin. The emotional source code of Vladimir Putin, you can get it on my website. It's on dovbaron.com. You can click around a little bit, and if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see special reports. And one of those reports is called the Putin Report. But I'll give you the shortcut. It's a fascinating read, really is. But the emotional source code of Vladimir Putin is, I am Russia. It's not, I'm Russian, I am Russia. And I explain how he got to that. But that's from his like the tiniest kid that he was, like from being an infant. I am Russia. So there's no decision he makes that is about Vladimir Putin. It's about even though we look at it and go psychopathic or whatever we might call it, it's I am Russia. That's what drives him. And when you look at that in your company, and you go, what is the emotional source code of this company? You can't go, oh, we've been, no. You're talking about mission, or you're talking about your purpose, or you're talking about your values. That's not your emotional source code. Your emotional source code is below all those things. When you understand that, you start uniting people around that. So I'm doing some work right now with a big financial company. We've done the emotional source code of the organization. But before we did that, I had to take all 4 partners and do the emotional source code of all 4 partners, find the common area. Then we develop the emotional source code of the organization. Then you take that to the company and the culture transforms. Because now it's like, well, you're a red hat and I'm a blue hat and I can't stand you and you're an idiot or whatever it might be. But we're in this about this.
Yes.
So put your hat away, because this is really, we are a company who's really focused on X and we really care about that. And this is the emotional source code. This is the deepest purpose of this. It's not some purpose you manufactured. This is purpose at its soulful level. And I can put my politics to the side because I care about that. And you do too. And you've got skills I don't have. So let's do this together. Now we've got collaboration, we've got community, and we've got innovation, and we've got just like a bond that is so powerful. Again, we've got a culture of belonging.
So we talk a lot at Top Potential about immutable laws and identifying the immutable laws of the company. And usually it starts with the business owner, because the business owner is the founder. And we're talking about small businesses here. And you want to hire people whose immutable laws align. So, but when we're talking core values, we're talking like most of us have three core values that really drive us, 3 to 5. So bring in emotional source code. How does that relate to immutable laws? How is it different? What do we do with that?
Well, let me put it this way. So if you've ever tried to change a behavior, and we've all tried, you've probably failed. Now you might have been able to do 1 or 2, but mostly we fail, because behavior is the top of the iceberg. It's just the thing that's most easy to see, right? I eat with my mouth open. I need to close my mouth. I don't do this, or I do that, or I'm drinking too much, or whatever it is, right? So these behaviors, they're very obvious. But below, if you want to change behavior, you have to go, well, what's underneath the behavior? I did a behavior change. I've used the discipline, but I can't keep up this discipline forever. It's just exhausting. So what do I have to deal with? Well, every behavior is held in place by a set of beliefs and values. Now, values are a cluster of beliefs that support each other. That's what values actually are psychologically. So you have to go, well, what are the values and beliefs? So I go, okay, I did some belief intervention. I did some values depth work. That's good. You should do that. It's really important. How come it's not stuck, Dov? My change still isn't stuck. Because your beliefs and values are in place to support the behaviors, but they came out of your identity. It's your identity that's the issue. The beliefs and values were manufactured out of the identity, and the identity manufactured the behaviors. So they go, well, what's my identity? Well, in the emotional source code, it's 5 levels deep. The central one is identity. This one is neurologically an addiction. You have to break the addiction. And the reason why that is because the 2 levels below that, at the bottom level, is the emotional source code itself. This is the milieu. This is the environment you grew up in. It's what was going on. And it's the reason that siblings, as you and I were talking about before we started recording, two siblings can grow up in completely different families. And they might even be twins. And you go, why is yours so different than mine? Because human beings, we have to survive. And part of our psychology is we working out, how do I survive this environment? So my language, it's not the language, but my language is very simply, when you're an infant, you go, how do I survive this lunatic asylum called my childhood? Because everybody in there is nuts. for their own reasons, right? Because your mom grew up with whatever craziness she had, and your dad grew up with it, and they're all trying to do better than their parents did, and that's great. But it's still some major dysfunction, right? As John Bradshaw said, 97% of families are dysfunctional, and the other 3% are liars. It's just a matter of how dysfunctional. I'm not saying your family were abusive. It's just there's some dysfunction. That's okay. But you have to work out how to survive. And you do that in your infancy. You do that before you're 7 years old. Out of that, you go, oh, you start working out meaning. Level 2 is called the anatomy of meaning. What meaning did I give this certain thing? People go, what do you, give me an example. Okay. Do you remember somebody who bullied you at school? Can you remember being bullied?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you remember that person's name?
Yes.
What's their first name?
I don't want to say it out loud.
What's the first name?
It's an unusual name. So I'm not going to say
make up a name. It's
fine. Julie.
Okay. Now tell me, because you know the name, the person's name. Mm-hmm. If you suddenly had somebody apply for a position in your company and their first name, would you have a reaction?
Oh, yeah.
Why? It's not the same person.
I know, right?
It's ludicrous. It's insane. You know it's nuts. You can work out. I'm an intelligent woman. I've done business all over the world. I've run podcasts. I've run meetings. I've got blah, blah, blah. I'm working with these people and that people. And I'm having a freak out about this person who's coming to work for me or potentially work for me who has the same name as my bully. And I already hate him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dov, I'm so aware like that you just asked me to name a bully from like 5th grade. And I'm like, I don't want to say their name on this podcast. I'm a grown woman.
Right. Why not?
They brought me back to that point.
Right. That's the point. So that emotional source code, that anatomy of meaning, just in that one person's name, transports you in time right back to that moment. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I'm intimidated. Mm-hmm. So just, we go, oh, well, I'm very logical. I'm very rational. Bullshit. Sorry, that's bullshit. I don't mean that as an insult to you. It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. We are emotional beings acting post-rationally, right? So we rationalize. The word is rational lies. We tell ourselves rational lies about our emotional responses. And we like to go, oh, well, I'm very rational, No, you're not. You just disguise it well, even from yourself. So the emotional source code tells you this is the meaning of this thing. You take that meaning into your identity. You go, if this is what it means, I better be that. Mm-hmm. Not only I better be that, but I can't be this. This is where it gets really juicy in the work that I do with the private clients one-on-one is what did you disenfranchise? Mm-hmm. Because the things you desire in your life, let's say, you say, I wish I was more creative. Just making one up, right? I'm just not a very creative person. I wish I was more creative. Bullshit. And they go, what do you mean bullshit? Oh, I know you're creative. How can you possibly say that? Because if you wish you were creative, you have to have a reference point. It's not how we work.
Yeah.
Right? It's not how we work. If I say, don't you wish you were a hoopy gooby? And you go, I don't know what hoopy gooby is. And you go, that's because you have no reference point. You have a reference point that says, I wish I was creative, because that's a part of you that went, oh, I can't have that. If I'm going to survive this lunatic asylum called my childhood, I can't have that. So I'll push that into the depths. I'll push that into disenfranchised, and I start to become this, whatever this identity is. And if I'm this, I better build these beliefs on top and cluster those together to create values. And if I'm going to create those as values, then this is going to become my behavior. So this is why I'm chasing $1 billion and I feel really empty. This is why I've just opened my 14th company and it didn't really do anything for me. And does it look great to everybody else? It does. Everybody's inspired and tells me, oh, you're so inspiring. But when you look in the mirror, you're like, I'm not a very inspired person.
Yeah.
You're inspiring, but you're not living an inspired life because your emotional source code at its root is still running things until you can address what got disenfranchised. Then you can have purpose and meaning.
This is absolutely fascinating. I see this a lot with business owners who sell a company and then feel like that was their ultimate goal is to get that company sold. And then it's the then what question. Mm-hmm. What you're bringing to light here is, I think, something that we don't pay enough attention to is we humans are complex. There's so much more to us than the surface. And I would encourage any of you listening who are just totally intrigued to understand more about emotional source code and what Dov is describing. Make sure you go over to his website at dovbaron.com. Dov, you brought a gift for our listeners that you want to share, so I invite you to talk about that.
Well, thank you. Again, I appreciate that. And it's called the Loneliness Tax. It's the Loneliness Tax Report. It's a special report that I wrote about what we were talking about the impact of loneliness, what it's costing your company, what it's costing the global GDP, but what it's costing your company, what you can do about it, how it can you can overcome it, what you can do about it. It's a great report. It really just takes you in depth and gives you the step-by-step process for understanding it. And it's I'll just tell you the truth. I wrote it because I have a new book coming out this month or early next month, which has a working title of Creating Cultures of Belonging. The title might change. I have a course by that same name, Creating Cultures of Belonging. That's why it was named that way. Because I wanted people to understand how serious this problem is, that this is certainly at a socio-economic level, a bigger challenge than AI is right now. And it's the thing that has got shoved into the background because of AI. And AI is, like I said, it's a very important thing to write about, to understand. I've written a special report and an ebook on AI, but that's different than understanding you have got to connect to yourself as a human. Mm-hmm. And the more we get away from that, the more trouble we're going to be in, and the more blind we're going to be to what's going on around us. And it's so, we like to think we're smart, but we're so easy to manipulate human beings. If we don't have community, we've got to be connected to others. And please understand, community is not tribe. In a tribe, when you're tribal, we are right, you are wrong. They are others. The red hats versus the blue hats versus the red hats. Stupid. It doesn't make anybody smarter. But when we have a culture of belonging, where we have community, we look for what we have that brings us together. And every time we're being pushed to say it's them, othering, they, all that's doing is pulling you away from your humanity. And here's the thing. You can't be creative in that space.
No, it's a place of fear.
It's a place of fear. There's no creativity there. Can't have innovation. You're gonna die a death holding onto your hat, telling everybody how right you are. Well, okay. Not the kind of life I want, but if you want that, that's all right. And it doesn't mean I have to disagree or agree with your politics. It doesn't matter. Some of my very good friends are hardcore Republicans, and some of them are hardcore liberals. Okay, I don't care. I have a simple question. Just show me your moral and ethical compass. That's it. Are you a decent human being? Do you act in a way that's that of a decent human being? I don't care what your politics are.
This has been incredibly thought-provoking, Dov. Thank you. And I just want to remind folks, you can download the Loneliness Tax Report at tinyurl.com/loneliness tax. And we will post a link in the show notes. And if you want more, Dov, tell them the name of your podcast one more time.
The Dov Baron podcast, pretty easy to find. Find out more about me anywhere online. Just go to Dov Baron. There's more stuff than you can possibly cope with. There's a YouTube channel with about 1,500 videos. There's the podcast. And I write for LinkedIn every Tuesday, a newsletter. I write for dovbaron.com every Thursday. There's a newsletter. And a bunch of other places, and you can find me on Sabrina's show.
Yes.
Make sure you share the show with everybody you know. If you found it valuable, do that. And besides which, remember, Sabrina does a lot of work to bring people on. Make sure you share the show with everybody you know. Write a review. It matters. Not just of this episode, but of her show. Right? You know, she puts time and energy in here for you. Get over there. Hit the review button. Do it now.
Thank you, Dov.